everyone, and welcome to the Money Talks panel segment. Are you guys excited?
Yes.
All right, how has your experience been so far today?
Great.
Have you guys learned anything new or met anyone that you felt like, you know what, I'm glad I came and networked and met this person? Well, that's what this is all about. I have to tell you that just being here today just is such a blessing because I walked down these halls, not literally these halls, but on the steps of Morgan because it was not like this when I was here. But I graduated twice here, back in '98 and again in '01. And so just being able to come here and be a part of this, where it all started for me is truly special. Money Talks actually was birthed in 2020 during the heart of the pandemic, and it was something that was really burning in my heart because I know, like you all know, that to truly have a voice, to truly have a seat at the table, it's all about economics, right? So money does in fact matter. And so we launched Money Talks in 2021 officially as a webinar session. And we launched it during Black History Month in the month of February. We've been doing it every year since. So this is the first time that we are doing it live in person. And to be able to do it here at Morgan is so special. And this would not have been possible without the likes of Tremaine Davis and Keontae Bush, who put together this HBCU Summit. And you know, what you guys are doing is bigger than you guys, it's bigger than all of us, and it's just the start of bigger and better things. So thank you so much for this platform. Thank you. All right, so I want to introduce myself formally. My name is Sharifa Muniz, and I am the founder and the executive director of the NewWave Foundation. It's a nonprofit organization that's focused on creating educational opportunities for diverse learners. We especially focus on kids who are the first in their families to go to college, giving them access to scholarships, and also educational workshops and tools like financial literacy. And doing this is so special because our first scholar actually came and attended Morgan. So this again is such a full circle moment. I almost didn't graduate from college. I was in a situation where my family was going through some really into the bursar's office in tears. And I remember just saying, hey, I might have to drop out. And I, will probably just get a full-time job and make enough money and maybe come back later. But you know what? They found me money. They got me a scholarship. And that's how I was able to graduate. And so let me tell you, when it comes to money, when it comes to scholarships, when it comes to education, Morgan has truly been there for me. And I don't know that if I didn't attend a HBCU like I did, if they would have come through for me in the way that they did. They fought hard to make sure I was able to be here. And so being able to pass it on forward like this is truly special. But again, this would not be possible without the esteemed panel of individuals that I have out here before you guys. These are the top professionals in their field who have done some amazing things, who have extremely busy schedules, but they took time out of those busy schedules to be here today. So I want to quickly introduce you guys first and foremost to the author and collegiate financial wellness expert, Dr. Tisa Silver Kennedy, right next to me. And then next, we have the founder and CEO of Black with No Chaser, and that is C.J. Lawrence. And then next, we have the managing partner of Copper and Vine Studio, Rakia Finley. And then last but not least, we have the VP of Small Business Ambassador at M&T Bank, Jim Peterson Jr. All right, so asking questions of our panel and getting this whole conversation on Money Talks wouldn't make sense without truly understanding what goes behind each of these individuals that we just introduced. I shared a little bit about my story, But in order to truly set the tone, I'd like to ask each of you guys to introduce yourself by telling us a little bit about how you got to where you are today. So we'll start off with you, Tisa.
Hello everyone, I'm Tisa Silver Kennedy, aka Dr. T Money as they call me. And my journey was one, I have to say, economically, of just doing what was right. You know, my mother was an accountant, my father was an electrical engineer, so I had very good examples within the home about how to be responsible with money. So when it was time for the college search, I went to the college that gave me the most money, and that was the University of Delaware. I started there on a full academic scholarship as a civil engineering major, and after the first semester, which included an 8 a.m. class with probably about 300 other people, and a professor whose accent I just wasn't familiar with, and his handwriting I wasn't familiar with either, I ended up going home and having to tell my parents that I had a 1.76 GPA. Promptly was on academic probation, lost the scholarship for a little bit, and that caused me to ask myself a lot of hard questions like, what are you doing? Why are you trying to be an engineer? Is it just because your dad was one, or because this is what you want to do? And I came back and looked at myself and figured out what I like. I like math, I like money, that sounds like business. So once I transferred into the School of Business, it was only onward and upward from there. I ended up graduating from UD, going back to get a master's, they paid for that too, and ended up joining the faculty to teach corporate finance and investments around 23 or 24. So even though the journey has been one where I was doing what I thought was right economically, there were other thoughts that I had not taken into account as deeply as I had the financial side of things. And so if anything, I'd like to share with you all that when it comes to economics, it helps to have a very good awareness of yourself, because who you are, what you think, what you believe, and what you value drives a lot of what you do with your money and those economic decisions. So I have other hills and valleys, but I know this is not the time for that. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it to CJ.
What's going on, everybody? I am CJ, CEO of Black with No Chaser, originally from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and a two-time HBCU graduate, once from Tougaloo College and then from Thurgood Marshall School of Law in Houston, Texas. I'm very happy to be here with you this afternoon. It's beautiful to see this happening. Thank you to the NewWave Foundation for having us here. Black with No Chaser is a media and technology company that we founded in 2017, along with one of my co-founders, Tyson Jackson, who is back there. It was originally founded with some of my friends from college, all the way back in 1999, in the 1900s. And so, yeah, we were friends back then, and we were already involved in activism, involved in telling stories, and this was before things like YouTube existed, before Facebook existed. And so we were kind of doing these things before our time. And then in 2017, we decided to take our platform to the next level because so much in social unrest was going on around the country, right? Here in Baltimore, in St. Louis, even in Jackson, Mississippi, where we are located. And so we wanted to amplify and tell that story. We were bootstrapped from the beginning, and I'm pretty sure everybody, we call it getting in front of the mud where I'm from, but we was bootstrapped. And from 2017 to 2020, outside of one contribution, we had not made or monetized a dime for the first 3 years of our existence. And that's something that I want to really make people aware of. Sometimes you have to build the infrastructure. In that time, although we had not monetized anything, what we were doing was building communities. And in building those communities, what we were able to do was begin to reach out to about 700,000 people, 700,000 followers, and accumulate those across platforms. And eventually that reach and engagement became over 10 million people a month. And that's where we stand now. Again, I said we began to monetize in 2020, and we began to see and identify where our value propositions were. The things that people saw value in with us. We began to understand ourselves more. And as we began to do that, we began to cultivate that even more. Now, I don't want to tell you that it was all glamour, because entrepreneurship is not that. And I think it's important for you to know that. So as we begin to talk about this journey today, those are some of the things that we really want to give you advice on, is how to navigate on the journey of being an entrepreneur and understanding this space. We're in the process now of, we've identified strategic partnership opportunities with technology companies, and we've started a joint venture with a tech company. And in addition to that, we've identified other strategic partnership opportunities that now allows us to scale as a company in the places that we identified as opportunities. And so that's what I'll talk to you about today.
Hello all. How are you all? Good. I'm Rakia Finley. I am the founder and managing partner of Copper and Vine Studio. Copper and Vine is a software development ideation consultancy that is also a CTO augmentation agency. That means that we build people's ideas, digital ideas on their behalf, and we launch them into market effectively. I first started my journey at 19 years old. I was a freshman in college. I am a latchkey kid. I'm a product of a hardworking single mother, which means that I did every single after-school program you could imagine to get a meal. And I'm a product of after-school programming. I took that ability to code and build database solutions, and I built the first nonprofit system for orphanages in Virginia. At 19 years old. I built Starwood Hotel's first mobile app before I was 21, and I sold my first artificial intelligence technology before I was 25. What I get to talk to you about is the journey of success. How do you manage that when you come from what doesn't necessarily look like it, when you don't have the tools, the knowledge to manage the abundance? And I've done a number of things around helping other entrepreneurs manage the abundance and the success of our lives. What I've come to learn, especially as a Black woman in technology, is we don't have a lot of people telling us what to do with the great. We have a lot of people telling us how to get to great. So managing that is a story for me of a lot of mistakes with success. Right? I can tell you a lot of stories about spending $1 million in 1 year, not having anything to show for it. Everybody going to brunch. We all want to brunch. Right? So, and how do you move from that and not having a community that can give you and instill in you the knowledge you need with this abundance, and how do you learn? How do you thirst for your own knowledge and to continue your success? Happy to be here.
Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? I don't know about y'all, but I'm impressed by this panel. I'm just mad that I left my phone over there because I want to take a picture of y'all. I will be reaching out. But again, I'm Jim Peterson, M&T Bank. I work for M&T Bank, but please don't get it twisted. I'm just like all the rest of you guys. Right? I'm going to try to keep this brief. Back in the old days, I was an engineer, like Dr. T. I was working in a union shop, as a matter of fact, and I worked there since high school, worked my way up to operations manager in this Teamster shop up in Philly. And the folks in management reached out to me and said, "Hey Jim, we see something in you, we want to send you to school." Because believe it, had they not said that, I would not be going to anybody's school. Right? So they sent me to Penn State to become an engineer, to move into engineering. I came back to that firm, worked as an engineer, and worked my way up to R&D engineering. I was there for 15 years. So while in my lab, doing what I do, I would introduce these new products. After we developed new products, we introduced them to manufacturing. The salesmen would go out all over the country and sell them. Right? So they would call me up, and they would say, "Hey Jim, you know, I'm with a customer, can this product do this, can this product do that?" And I would get all excited, right? Because I'd be trying to figure out, well, where are y'all? What's the weather like? Where are you going for lunch? Right? All those brunches and stuff, that's what the salesmen were doing. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be a salesman. Right? So after, talked to the company, I had very good, again, I've been there 15 years, I know everybody in the company. Talked to the president, I said, listen, I want to be in sales. He said, Jim, I love you, but you can't do sales for us. We don't have any black salesmen because we don't have any black customers. All right. I appreciate it. It hurt, but I appreciate it. We're still friends to today. I appreciated the honesty, but I said, well, I love you guys too, but I gotta go. Because that's what I want for myself. And believe it or not, there was this free newspaper we would get at home called the Penny Saver. I don't know if they have them where you grew up. But there was this little tiny ad of a flooring company that said, we're looking for a salesman. So I applied, took a couple of vacation days, traveled around with this gentleman, older white gentleman, and on one particular day, we went out to see about 4 or 5 companies, picking up checks along the way. We went back to McDonald's to download, and I'm looking at all these checks, and he said, Jim, if you come work for me, you can get 10% of everything you bring in. And I said, all right, well, that's all I need to know, because I was looking at almost 100 grand on the table. I said, okay, cool. Made that executive decision. I'm going to quit my company, a good company job with benefits, the kind of benefits you don't have anymore, the ones you don't have to contribute to, with a 401k, matching 401k up to 6%, and an IRA, and a pension, right? So right then and there, I knew what I was going to do. And I just had to go home and tell my wife and our 2 kids, right? And but again, long story short, my wife knows me. She knows this is what I do. She knows I'm not gonna let anything happen to us. So I quit my job, went to go work for this guy. Me and another friend of mine then began working for him. This was in '97. By 2000, we bought the company from that guy. We grew the company from small to large. Moved to Baltimore, created a manufacturing plant. So now we have several different entities. We have work in the automotive space, work in industrial space, government space, manufacturing of floor tiles that we're shipping all over the world. And the manufacturing company was sold for 8 figures. The installation company was sold in 2013, and I was just kicking around, trying to figure out what am I going to do now. Going to brunch with everybody, right? I don't fish, just trying to fill my days. So I became, what I did know is that I wanted to help other people that were like me. Because we figured it out, trust me. Again, I don't know how we got there. Right? Nowadays, what I spend most of my time doing is teaching people how to create business plans. We didn't have a business plan. We didn't know what a business plan was until people were reaching out to us to try to buy the company and were saying, we need a business plan from you guys. We were like, I'll get that to you tomorrow. We got one, but I just don't have it on me. Let me get back to you. And then we go, we didn't have YouTube and none of that stuff. We just had to go to the library, figure out what a business plan was, and create one, right? So it worked out for us, but I don't want it to be that hard for other people. So I spend every day, all day, working with folks like you to try to make sure that you don't have the problems that, that it's not as hard for you as it was for us to get where we were. So that's what I do. I'm sorry for the long answer.
As you guys can see, everyone's story is different, but there's still threads of similarities, right, with everyone. So there's so much we're all going to learn from each other today. In the area of financial literacy, I was researching some statistics that really blew my mind. As we all know, when it comes to, especially within our community, our financial literacy rates is probably one of the lowest. However, what really surprised me was, according to Zipia.com, it actually said that financial literacy rates have fallen 19% over the past decade from generation to generation. So this is just across the board. It's actually saying that baby boomers were 59% literate. But going down to Gen Z, it's down to 36%. So my question is, in this age, this digital age where we got social media, we got AI, we've got access to all the information, how is it possible that we're becoming more financially illiterate, with all this information going on? And our theme for today, by the way, is the future of digital currency, another way of saying the future of money. So I'd like to kick this question off with you, Jim. Being that you are currently in traditional banking, and in fact, the statistic says that only 13.8% of Black households do not have checking savings accounts in banks or credit unions compared to 2.5% of white households. If with traditional banking, we still have the lowest rates when it comes to banking or even trusting banking and financial institutions, how now in the age of this digital age that we find ourselves, are we even going to try to bridge that gap? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? And what are some of the things that, we can start doing to, to get on board, especially in this digital age?
Yeah, again, this is a long answer, but I'm gonna keep it brief and I'm gonna give you some takeaways, right, briefly. It starts with, again, I do this all day long. I'm in Baltimore City Public Schools talking to these kids all the time. And invariably, I do a summer program right here in Morgan, as well as other colleges. And what we find is the parents will be out in the hallway, but then they'll start coming in, right? Because they need this information as well. And it starts a lot in Black homes. We don't talk about money, right? Your parents used to tell you, well, that's grown folks. That's grown folks' business, right? Don't worry about that. Don't worry about what the mortgage is, right? When I work with these young people, I say, go home and ask your mom how much the mortgage is, how much the rent is. Right? Ask her how much you pay for groceries. When you go to the market with her, ask her, how much you pay for groceries? How much does that cereal cost? Right? We need to have these conversations with our young folks. So the takeaway I'm going to give you is that make sure that you're having these conversations in your households. In my family, you can ask my kids, they're all grown now, but they never got allowance in their hand. I kept a whiteboard, it was actually a chalkboard, with their allowance and their accumulations, and I gave them printed checks. If they wanted money, they had to write me a check, and then I give them the money. Right? They learned early on how money works, how the banking system works. They had a ledger that they kept on their own of all the money that they had besides the chalkboard, because they had to keep me straight. Right? They had their own ledger, we had the chalkboard, they had to write a check, so they knew how money operated. We ought to be having these conversations in our households because that's where the gap is. Well, while there's a lot of information out there, there's a lot of misinformation. And we all, folks like us, are spending a lot of time trying to correct that misinformation.
Thank you so much. Rakia, I'd like to also point that question to you, but in a different set. You are a techie, you have that tech background. And you mentioned as part of your story, when you made your first meal, how quickly it was to lose it, right? So sometimes it's not just about making money, it's also about keeping money. What have you learned in your journey, especially in terms of technology and finances? Go ahead.
Yeah. So, as far as what I didn't know, I'll talk really honestly about what I didn't know. And I'll liken it to the evolution of technology and currency. When we think about user experience in technology, really it's about engagement, exhilaration, right, dopamine. And what we've done now in technology evolution, especially with younger generations, is we've matched dopamine with the ability to earn, right? So we now have our TikToks, we have our Instagram shops, we have our OnlyFans, right? So now we've matched user experience with earning. We've also created this new level of revenue of this concept of if I am, then I make, so influencer strategies. All these are really new concepts of earning that we still are, at the end of the day, it ends up in your bank account once you transfer it over. Then you add that against the ability to earn faster. So back in the day, we used to have penny stocks, now we got Bitcoin, right? Same language, from my opinion. When you add all these concepts, but you lack a sense of fundamental financial understanding, interest rates, right? Investments, cash versus credit, all the things. But you, at the same time, are engaging, which means you are either creating currency for others or you are getting currency back for your engagement, then what we would experience from a user, from a scientific standpoint, is we are lessening your understanding of the flow, right? You come into a casino, I don't want you to know what time it is. I don't want you to know how much you had when you came and how much you're gonna have when you leave, right? That same rhythmic and algorithmic goal is happening in technology, right? So if I come on and I tell everybody to buy into my Bitcoin, right, and then, oh, I don't know what happened, but you feel like you're a millionaire in that moment, right? I utilize dopamine in your lack of education. So I think what happened then, back in my day, and what is still happening now is the concept of quick money can completely overwrite your existing lack of understanding and will bypass your journey to understand, right? Because now you're on live and you made $1,000 and you have no concept of earn or spend or return. What also has happened when we looked at digital currency and to the point of traditional development and growth, we are forgetting about what really makes money, right? And I hate to keep likening it back to penny stock, but I always tell any of my mentees, I say, well, what about Bitcoin? What about buying into this? And I was like, if you don't have a real old school portfolio with just good stocks, if you haven't looked into an IRA, right? If you aren't paying for your own life insurance, don't talk to me about any digital currency because you're not ready. You can't leverage it, right? So I think it's that. I think it's a little bit of quick money, get quick money fast, as it should be. But then, because you can gain so much so quickly, it can sometimes bypass education.
I love that. I think, hold on, okay, testing, perfect. Thank you so much. I would like to ask the next question to you, CJ. And just want to mention a quick statistic. It says that according to the Digital Marketing Institute, 70% of teens and young adults trust influencers more than traditional celebrities. I know that, Rakia just mentioned a little bit about, some of the social media platforms, and I know you are in digital media yourself and you leverage that. Is there a correlation between an individual's engagement with digital media and their earning potential? Right? And if so, can this relationship be leveraged for financial growth?
That's a great question. So one of the first things I'll say is that as Black with No Chaser, we are kind of a consortium or a group of influencers that have come together for a purpose and to build community around the creator economy. And the creator economy is a very real thing. It just became phrased or called the creator economy. But we're talking about something that has the potential around 2025 to generate over $480 billion in revenue. In 2024, many of the large corporations that exist have increased their budgets around 25% around the idea of creator economy, tapping into influencers, and also even building infrastructure within their own corporations to begin to kind of incubate their own influences within their companies. So these are all things that are coming to the table right now. With regard to asking if engagement is important, there are some people who are influential in what we call niche spaces who can have 1,000, 5,000, that can be micro influencers and generate potentially more revenue than someone with millions of followers who doesn't have a business plan or a business strategy based around what they're attempting to do. And I think that's what Rakia was speaking to and what Jim spoke to as well to a certain degree. So you do have to treat your brand as a business and your business as a brand when you get into a space like this. And sometimes you can strike and have luck with reach and engagement, but it is not until you actually begin to understand your audience, what it is your audience values about you, what it is you're bringing to them and developing that consistently, that you really begin to tap into monetization as far as your engagement is concerned. It creates the opportunities for you to monetize on the platforms themselves with things like Facebook monetization, YouTube, which is still probably the one that pays the best. TikTok is beginning to challenge Amazon in some ways with the TikTok shop. Facebook has a lot of different ways you can monetize on there, even the Facebook marketplace. The one that I don't use, the yellow one, Snapchat. Yeah, but they're paying people to use it because nobody uses it. And so there are opportunities to do that, but there are also opportunities, as Rakia stated, to begin to kind of have your own autonomy in these spaces. And I think that's the direction that we're kind of seeing the trend start to go, is building communities for yourselves and curating and cultivating those communities directly. Because that more personal relationship is the next step. And that's kind of what we are as Black Women Chaser. We started out as a media and technology company, but we kind of morphed into a lifestyle brand that people wanted to be a part of, people wanted to buy into. They wanted us to show up for events and do our podcast live. They wanted us to, do these trips and things like that. And so we thought about it. We're like, okay, we're going to do our own, and we got with a technology company that said we're going to do our own membership. And that's kind of where our skilling came in. And that's where our skilling is going in. There are opportunities to create your own communities and generate very significant revenue. Some of the top grossing people, I'm gonna name the top 2 or 3. Most of them are white. Mr. Beast is number 1. He's a YouTube influencer, but once you kind of become influential on one of them, your community will travel with you a lot of times. But he engages. I think he has over 300 million YouTube followers. He's got more followers than America has people. And he engages about 4% of those people on most of his videos, which is very significant, because most people, no matter how big your following is, if you are getting an engagement rate of about 1 to 2%, you're actually doing really well. Black Women Chaser, for example, has about 700,000 followers. We reach and engage about 10 million people a month, but we know that normally we're not going to have a post that gets 700,000 likes or shares. More realistically, if we had one to get 15,000 to 20,000, that's actually a good post in that instance. So that's kind of how that works.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Can I tag on to some of CJ's awesome facts around that? Just some tidbits of anybody trying to go into this space to make it more financially sound. One, you should always have a milestone metric of what you plan to earn that year, right? Within that, you're gonna tell yourself how many hours you're gonna dedicate that. We're gonna divide that. We're gonna understand our hourly, right? Now we're gonna see ourselves as an employee. We're gonna take in the revenue of that marketing earn into a business account, right? And then we're gonna pay ourselves out like an employee. Even if you are an influencer that's bringing in 5,000 that year, you're gonna create that flow for yourself. You did 5,000 that year, you're gonna give yourself a goal of 10,000 the next, right? And you're gonna keep populating that. And then from taxes and things like that, it gets a little bit more fun. But yes.
I like that you said that, treating it truly like a business and not just being social. I love that. So Tisa, my question for you is that, for college students, and even for those of us who aren't college students, but those who still have college debt that they're dealing with, what are the implications, given the current financial state of the country, in terms of what folks can be doing right now, even while still in school or whatever phase of life they find themselves, because you've been very successful in helping individuals either pay down debt or have debt completely forgiven. And when we talk about financial literacy and we talk about money, like we said, it's not about just making more money, but how do you keep more money? And part of that is keeping your debt down. And college debt tends to be one of the most debt that, people are saddled with.
The first thing I would say is with student loans, you have to be strategic. You cannot underestimate the number of options that you have available. It's just that for some people, they borrow student loans and they're like, okay, well, I'll just forget about that. It's for my education. It's the right thing to do. I'll pay it back whenever I get a chance. When it comes to student loans, at least federal student loans, there are income-driven options. There are options that are based on how much you owe. But the key is that you have options. You will have no option if you don't explore and make a choice. If you do not choose for yourself, the government will enroll you in what's called the standard repayment plan. The standard repayment plan is the one that usually has the most expensive payment. So if you set yourself up by not being proactive, not being strategic, and allowing the government to make the choice for you, you could end up with a payment that's not affordable and then go down the road of delinquency and default, where they can sue you for a judgment, garnish your wages, take your tax refund, seize your Social Security benefits, and do a host of other not so nice things in order to get that money. So be strategic. Do not underestimate the importance of strategy. I also want to say, do not be ashamed. There are some people who are afraid to look at the overall amount of student loans they have because they know if they see that number, it's going to send them into a tizzy. But you cannot do anything about something that you will not acknowledge. This morning, I met with someone who owes $560,000 of student loan debt. Now that one person is an outlier, but there was a point where you had to owe more than $200,000 just to get on my calendar because there are that many people with student loan debt out there. Fortunately for this person, in about 3 months, we're going to celebrate when that debt gets wiped out because she's a public servant. Okay? So these are the things that you would not know about if you're not proactive and you're not strategic. So if you have federal student loans, the best thing you can do for yourself is go to studentaid.gov because that's the home of the federal government. There you will see every single loan you ever took out, regardless of the servicer that it's with. Go to studentaid.gov, take a full inventory of your loans, and then when you know the types of loans you have, then we can talk about the decisions that you should make, or the benefits that you might be eligible for. Quick plug. April 30th of this year is a very important deadline, especially for people who are like my age, who went to school many years ago and you have student loans that have been lingering. President Biden has implemented some one-time changes that are allowing people to get more forgiveness and cancellation than ever. And that's how I've been able to help people get $13 million erased in the past 18 months. Please go to studentaid.gov. Take a look at your loan types. If you'd like, you can reach out to me. I will help you with it because I want to make sure as many people get to that zero balance as possible. But you cannot address it if you don't acknowledge it. And studentaid.gov is the only place you should go to begin that journey. Absolutely.
Quickly, just number one, don't feel bad if you have student loan debt. Barack Obama has student loan debt. He was president, right? So don't feel bad. But when we talk about that wealth gap, that debt is the major contributor to the fact that we have the gap that we have. If we could eliminate our debt, again, working with a lot of college students, first thing they want to ask me about is Bitcoin. Right? What do you think about Bitcoin? Are you in Bitcoin? You know, if you're diversified, you're going to have a little bit. You're going to have a toe in it. But what I say to them is, how much debt do you have? Before you start thinking about doing some investments, you want to get rid of that debt because, again, that's how we bridge that gap. Let's get rid of our debt, then we start talking about investments.
Thank you. All right, we only have a few minutes, and I did want to get a question or two from the audience, but before that, if you guys could just use, honestly, like 15 seconds, okay? Just reflecting on your own journeys. Just reflecting on your own journeys, especially with regards to financial literacy, what would you have done differently? What one thing can anyone take away from here that they can start doing now that you would have done differently? Just 10 seconds, please.
Real easy, real quick, fundamental. There's a saying that I learned from Shannon Penner. I don't know if anybody knows Shannon Penner, but I was with her earlier this week. She said, if you want to know what's at the end of the road, talk to somebody who's on their way back. Right, so find a mentor.
200 things. 200 things that you plan on doing that will generate generational wealth in your life. Write them down, make it real, and get at it, right? 200 things. And then when you complete that 200, you get to sit down on a beach somewhere and write another 200, and then you'll do that. But every one of those 200 things need to be revenue driven. You don't have to do them right now, it might be the rest of your life. 200 things.
Don't be afraid to ask the questions about the things you don't know. I would say that in the beginning, probably pride and ego was one of the things that got in the way of us just going and identifying with Jim or with you to talk to them and ask those
They're
questions.
calling us
Right?
right now.
Oh, sure.
Sorry. So don't be afraid to ask.
But yeah, don't be afraid to ask the questions and find the things, find the institutional knowledge that you need.
Thank you, Tisa.
Self-awareness. Take inventory of yourself fully and regularly.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys so much. Is it possible to just get one audience's question? Does anyone here have a pressing question? All right, go ahead, sir.
What's one book you recommend?
One book you recommend?
Principles, Ray Diallo, great on finance and general life principles.
The E-Myth Revisited.
One more time?
The E-Myth Revisited.
I got two for you. Play Bigger and Atomic Habits.
Wait, what was the first?
Play Bigger. And the other one's Atomic Habits.
I'm going to go with a recent one, that's Walk Through Fire by Sheila Johnson.
What was that again, please?
Walk Through Fire by Sheila Johnson.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, panel. Weren't they fantastic? Thank you all for taking the time out to join us for this Money Talks and get their information. Reach out to them. They're a wealth of information, especially in the area of any student debt. You know, let's dig ourselves out of debt first, right? And then we can keep more money in our pocket. So thank you guys.
All right.
And y'all feel free to hit us if y'all follow at Black Woman Chaser or email us. I will definitely answer any questions that you might have.
I don't know if y'all heard that, but one of the panelists said, email me, hit me, I'm here to support. Like, this is what this is all about. Let's give it up one more time for this panel right here. That right there is what this is all about. We want to support, we want to help. All right, coming up in 15 minutes, we have our keynote speaker, Miss Dia Sims. Dia Sims, she is the former president of Holmes Enterprises and currently is the executive chairwoman of Lobo 1770 Tequila, global tequila brand. She is amazing and she will be with us in 15 minutes. 15 minutes.